That are just tuning in, you'll be able to witness me actually record our show, which is heard in 64 different countries on Live 365, and also you can pick it up on tcv360.com. So I have a special show for you. Listen in. Give me about 15 seconds, and you'll hear the intro. Oh, I love this music. Hello, hello. Welcome to TCB 360 Smart Business Network. I'm your host, LaTanya Jr. It's our special series show, and it's time to learn. Oh, if you're viewing us on Ustream TV, TCB 360, or on our website, of course, you can't hear that music, but when you play back and listen to it on the radio, you'll be able to hear it, and it's one of my favorites. One of Bill Withers' tunes. With all that being said and done, I'm pretty sure our show is really exciting today. No, I'm positive. Let me just clean that up. I'm positive. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been really reflecting over this year and some of the biggest questions or comments that I've heard from small businesses around the world. And one of the areas I rarely hear small or mid-sized businesses discuss is leverage. And as a small business owner or a mid-sized business owner, and you know what I'm talking about, whether you're a mom and pop or you're doing $100 million a year, you have less than 100 employees, you're a small business according to the U.S. For my businesses outside of the U.S., every country defines what their description of a small business owner, entrepreneur, or enterprise, as some of our countries would call themselves enterprise. That's what they prefer. With that all being said, here's the equalizer. All small businesses have to have something to leverage. And the reason for it is because it's very difficult to get funding. I mean, you can have some of the most extraordinary ideas out there, and there's still a challenge to get the funding and get the support and so on, et cetera. And you may say, well, Tanya, what's the difference in leveraging and what's the difference in collaboration? Well, there's a really big difference. And I'm going to share it by sharing a story of an extraordinary person that I'm sure most people are familiar with, absolutely in the U.S. and many countries. And I sort of choose people that I know that's going to be relevant to people outside of the U.S. and my other countries like Japan, China, the Netherlands, you know where you are, Austria, Brazil, all of the listeners out there, the entrepreneurs, the learners, the lifetime learners. Today, it's about Martha Stewart and her absolute gift for understanding who she is as a brand, her brand identity. She understands her brand personality, her brand essence. She got all of that part right. And she was able to develop herself as an extraordinary brand and then leverage it. And without bringing one penny to the table, she became a billionaire. And not once, but twice. I also chose it because last week we did Steve Jobs, and it was all about the men. And I want to make sure that women know that they're just not a part of this. They are a critical part of the global and local world of entrepreneurism. And for all of those folks that haven't figured out if they want to start a business or not, even if you work for a company, if you're any of my listeners that are executives, and you're really trying to figure out how to build your capacity and your imagination and your vision, this show is for you also. But the deal is that you need to know more and understand more about the process. And so there's a place for you too. So that increases our overall reach. I put my glasses on here, and I'm going to share this storybook in a fashion of storytelling. And I think that's the best way to make sure we don't miss any of the critical parts. So it's all about Martha Stewart. And I have to tell you, Martha Stewart's profile, her overall essence as a person, is identified as a star. And it's not a star because she became a star, but there are certain characteristics that are common, that she and several other people have in common and have far exceeded what they thought their success would ever be and continue to do that. And when they behave in a certain way because they understand what they're good at, what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, something we all must be able to do as entrepreneurs out there is admit, be humble, and admit where we are our best and where we aren't, and then of course find someone in that position where we are not our best, and that closes that gap. And it allows us to quantum leap and to increase our opportunities. So sit back and just check this little special series out, all about Martha Stewart today, but of course leveraging, and I'm going to share how that plays in, and I'm sure you'll all be able to take something home with you. Martha Stewart didn't come from a big town. She's not a New York City girl. She's not from California. She's actually from the Connecticut area. And I have to tell you, she grew up in very, very humble, lower middle class, not quite middle class, working class, absolute working class means. She learned a lot of her tricks and trades and her passion for homemaking, we could say homemaking and crafts, because her parents were very frugal, and she learned how to plant, grow her own food, and how to manage and make sure that nutrients was in the dirt, because they did a lot of these things at home, and it was able to really transcend as she figured out how to use it in her life, and not just use it, but become a billionaire. I have to also give you a little heads up. They often compare Oprah Winfrey and Martha Stewart as having a lot of remarkable similarities, and you'll see why as we move on. You'll probably we'll hear a little of Oprah's story, not her personal story. I'm not interested in that. That's her own personal story. But I'm talking about in regards to being able to leverage her overall brand and turn it into a dynasty, as Martha Stewart did. And Martha Stewart ended up setting up her own media company. Many people aren't aware of that, but she does have her own media company, even though it started with a small catering business that she had in an area called Westport, Connecticut. And Westport, Connecticut was Martha Stewart's first step to her brand building. Now, here's the FYI. A lot of you say to me, I need to build my brand. Well, before you decide to ever build it, you must identify it first. So Martha Stewart had identified her brand, and now she has said, listen, what I want to do is build my brand. So her husband, now I tell you, there's always someone in our life that can help our needs. Her husband was the CEO of a book publishing company, and he helped her get her first book started, which was entertaining as Americans' lifestyle and homemaking started. That was pretty much the story behind it. So her husband's in publishing. She goes right to her husband, and they work that out. And as they say, everyone with that profile of a star, need a great deal maker. And this is not a long time ago, so let's start to date everything. 1981, she rolls out her first book deal, okay? Not a millionaire, not even nearly a millionaire off of a book deal. But then, in 1987, just 6 years later, she gets a call. But I want you to think about what took place in those 6 years. She just didn't come out with a book, but she really worked on strengthening her identity. And she strengthened her identity by making sure she was clear about what her offer was, and her magazines, her publications became very successful. She had a wonderful following. They were clear about who she was and why she was there and what kind of solution she could be for consumers. Okay, so that's what she did. She did that brand building. She strengthened her offer. That's another way to say it. Over the period of 6 years. Does that remind you anything of the metaphor of the bamboo? Remember the metaphor of the bamboo? How bamboo grows, you plant it, and it takes 4 years before it even grows the sprouts because it's being grown underground to nurture and to build. And then in the 5th year, it grows 5, 6, 8 feet. This is a perfect example of that metaphor of Martha Stewart. So see yourself in it. So let's get back on 1987. 1987, a woman by the name of Barbara Snyder calls her. And Barbara Snyder is from the second largest discount chain at the time in the U.S., which was Kmart. And she said, listen, Martha, I can make you a multi-millionaire star and it won't cost you 1 penny. Well, if that's not a deal maker, I don't know what it is. So that was the offer. And Kmart was looking for a star to bring some glamour to their kitchen department. And so they said, we'll give you a deal of 5-year contract, $200,000 a year. So let's keep these numbers going. 1987, Martha Stewart gets a gig to spruce up and bring some products into Kmart, and the deal is $200,000 a year. That's 1987. That's not too long ago. So let me show you how this thing called leverage plays itself out. Then I'm going to explain leverage to you and give you some ideas about your own business. It says, even though this money was considered very exciting, Martha Stewart liked to spend. And she said, $200,000. Well, the first thing she did was she went and bought a house for $535,000, a farmhouse. And this is how she leveraged. Martha Stewart quickly spent up that money before she had even made it. But it didn't mean that she didn't have a trick up her sleeve. And here was the smart part of Martha Stewart, where we really start to see that this wasn't just an average entrepreneur. This is someone with vision and fortitude. She sat down and she convinced Barbara, her deal maker, to sit and says, listen, Kmart, this is what we're going to do. You're just not going to pay me $200,000 a year. Why don't you lend me the money to buy my house? And what I'll do is I'll record the renovations of my home, but all the products I use will be from Kmart. And we will turn the process into a national promotional campaign. National promotional campaign. And hold that thought while I give you some insight. And you may say, I know what leverage means, but I have to tell you something. Leverage means different things in different businesses. Yeah, in different areas of business. So, and it's different when you talk about leverage and investment, and it's different when you talk about leverage in corporate finance. And here's the area of how Martha Stewart literally quantum leaped her business, which is saying, listen, think bigger. I've been building my brand for 6 years, right? I have been nurturing my bamboo tree for 6 years. Now you have an opportunity to absorb that 5th year of extraordinary growth. So it's a win-win for both of us. I get this great farmhouse, okay? You get to promote it, and we both grow together. And that was the piece about leverage. Here is the actual definition if you were to look it up, if that's not clear enough for you. It says, one definition is a business can leverage its revenue, right? Leverage its revenue with its overall fix. I guess I don't want to swing too far. Another area is that you can leverage your equity. Your equity. And she pretty much leveraged her equity. Listen, I already have a magazine. I have a following. What I need, hey, it could be a lot bigger. Bottom line, this is what it turned into. Leverage. Thinking out of the box. Being bigger. It didn't matter. She wasn't afraid that Kmart was this really big, second largest discount store. She was clear about her brand. Hit that star profile. And the outcome became this. Martha Stewart's idea of leveraging her brand to get her dream home turned out to be the launch that paid for her television career. With 37 Kmart vendors on board, Martha became the face of different advertisements for a national campaign, and the national campaign investment was $20 million. A lot bigger than $200,000. Some people would have said, I'll take the $200,000 and $200,000 times 5 years. That's $1 million, and I'm out. Thinking really small. really thinking tiny. And she said, hey, hold, let's hold that. We're going to make this a lot bigger just by shifting some things, leveraging some things. And it continued. Then it led to print advertisement, television appearances, new books. In 1989, Martha Stewart came out with a book, New Old House. And it went on and on. That book became a bestseller. By 1991, Time Warner, which is one of America's largest television networks, came into play, and they were ready to sign a 10-year contract for Martha Stewart Living, her magazine. And I have to tell you something. What a queen of leveraging. Her magazine and her production, distribution, all of this, they're going to say, listen, we're going to take all of this on under Time Warner. Okay? Circulation of her magazine grew to 725,000 in 1992. That is a lot, people. I know folks that have had magazines out there for 20 years, and they may only have 500,000 subscribers. So we're talking about in 2 to 3 years, the Martha Stewart Living magazine actually turned out to be one of the most aggressive circulations in the U.S. All through leverage. She didn't go out. She didn't run around with an investment package. They sat down and talked these things out, and sure things hit the table and came to numbers. But she used her leverage, the building area of her brand. And she had already built it. She just needed a sales or a channel to make sure that it was going to be aggressively distributed, because she knew she had a lot of people out there in the marketplace that would be interested. She knew what she had was the solution. Got it? I know it's a lot. It's a lot to sort of take in. You go, wow, I just didn't think about Martha Stewart like that. But I really want you to focus to change the way you look at things so the things you look at change. That's one. Another area is make sure you have something to leverage, and if you don't get a leverage deal, then collaborate. But you've got to have that brand already in order. You can't show up hoping, wishing, praying that the people you collaborate with saves you. What they're there to do is to be a strength in an area you're not weak, but that has nothing to do with the brand. That brand part has to be identified. It has to be identified. I sort of tell people all the time, they say, well, will you coach me? First, I have to teach you first. And then once you have the learning, then I can coach you to instill it and motivate you to finish the race, to finish the game, to expand. You get it? Something has to come first. And that brand has to be properly developed, the core part of that brand. All right. I drilled. The story gets better. Okay, so this Martha Stewart, right? 1993, 750,000 in her circulation. It's not over. At this point, you think Martha would sit down. Nope, she takes another big step. Again, bringing the right person in. She brings Sharon Patrick. She brings in Sharon Patrick, a former partner of a major company, to come in and organize all of her activities. She said, listen, come and help me get all organized, put things in order, and then also do some negotiating for me. So Sharon sits down and she starts to negotiate deals with cable, with Time Warner, which is on cable, of course, and also with Kmart. And then they set up a media company called Martha Stewart Living Omni Media. Yeah, she has her own network, people. And what she did is that she bought the rights to the activities of everything that had happened on Time Warner in 1997. Martha, again, leveraged. She leveraged people. She leveraged on other people's finance to raise the money. And now we're talking about somewhere about $85 million. Think about it. People spend years saving their money, family, investing in businesses, and so on, etc. And they never think about this strategy. And I would call it a strategy. It is. It moves in that area of a strategy. And because it could be called a couple other things too as I sort of think about it. But it is a strategy, and this was a strategy. She didn't have to mortgage her house. You know, she didn't have to do any of those things. She didn't have to go to the local bank and borrow a whole lot of money. And she was just a little person. And Connecticut, Westport, Connecticut's about the size you can drive out of it in 15 minutes. You know? Now all of a sudden, 1997, $85 million comes to the table, right? It's a mix of loans, it's a mix of share, and this is what the payment is, reportedly, that Kmart, the steward, covered in regards to this overall purchase of Martha Stewart living Omni-Media. It gets better. Having leveraged off her promotional muscles at Kmart and Time Warner to build her own brand, and then leveraging them to finance and back her boy. Martha and Sharon, two women, ladies, two women took Martha Stewart Omni-Media public in 1997. 1997. And the IPO made Martha Stewart a billionaire. IPO in America, or IPO is initial public offering. The initial public offering. That's what an IPO is. And 2 years, from 1997 to 1999, she is a billionaire. In 2001, Forbes listed her, oh yeah, as one of the most prestigious women and richest women. She was then elected to be on the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, in 2001. She did have some challenges. There was a case, a legal case against her. Whether she did it or not, I am not the one to judge and will never judge. But she did do 5 months in jail for not being very honest. And she lost literally hundreds of millions of dollars. She got out of jail. In 2004 and 2005, while I'm sure she was behind bars, really decided, I need to get my brand back on track. And she was able to come out, rebuild her brand, and guess what? She recovered all of her wealth. She recovered her wealth. Oh yeah. Martha Stewart is our special theory show of today. We'll have another one for you. I tell you, this was very encouraging for me. You know, you get so busy, you sometimes think about, I don't even know where to begin to leverage. So we're ready to go into a new year, and I want people to really, during this cold season and holiday season, is really sit back and really start to take to heart many of the things we've discussed and start to put them in a puzzle. Starting January, we start all over with our series of shows in an order that if you're new to listening, it's easier for you to catch on, but there's still a lot of things happening. Depending on how many questions I get, I change the story subject to answer as many questions as I can. But there is a place for you. You can do it. There is no no. It's how bad you want it. It's, you know, moving into a new year and saying, I choose not to procrastinate. I'm moving into a new year. I choose to be smarter. Moving into a new year, I choose to do better. I choose to live life good. I choose to admit I have not been able to do the best I can, not spend a lot of time on it, and spend most of your time on focusing on how you can be better. I choose to surrender my old ways, and I choose to be a winner moving forward. I choose not to be, I hear it all the time, I know it all, and I choose to live my life through learning. I choose to drop my ego, and I choose to be inspirational, helpful, and a giver, and a learner, and a good leader. There's some things I just want you to take with you, take away, and just sort of really think about it when you say, why aren't I achieving what I need to achieve and what I want to achieve? And one of the issues is, by the way, where's your self-enrichment? Where's your self-enrichment? Oh, yeah. That's it. Sweet, simple, short show. Reading out of my life, my legacy. It's worth it. If you don't have the book, it's just some wonderful stories in here. I can share all the time from this book, but there's a lot of other lessons we have to get to. You know what I mean? Don't forget to email me if you have any questions, ljtcb360.com. Get ready if you want to go and get a sneak peek at our new full service ad agency for companies around the world. Feel free to visit www.tcba3.com, and you'll hear a lot more about it over the next weeks and months to come. You know, TCB360, I'll teach you how to do it yourself. TCBA3, I'll do it for you. If you want to pay for it, for me to do it, I have no problem doing it myself and my team. You know how I feel about you when I breathe and I leave love in my footsteps. If no one told you they love you today, I do. I'm your Tanya Jr. I am your brand friend. Thank you for listening. I am truly grateful.